What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at Irving Plaza, and today we are here with Tony Campos of Ministry, Static X, Fear Factory, Assassino, Return to Roots, Soulfly, Buck Satan and the 666. What else am I missing? Divine Heresy?
I didn't even remember that. Yeah, the list keeps getting longer. Right?
But it's so great to have you here, Tony. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first thing is always first. You're currently on tour with Ministry for the AmeriKKKant cycle. How has the making of the record and the record cycle been thus far?
The touring's been good. As far as the making of the record, I only played on 2 songs on the record, and it happened kind of by accident because I was home from tour. I think I was still working with Fear Factory at the time, and I was home between tours, and I went over to Al's house to just hang out, say hi, and we went and had dinner, had knocked back some sake, and got back to his house, knocked back a few more drinks. And at that point, he was like, "Hey, check out the material we're doing." And after a while, he was like, "Hey, this song needs bass on it. You want to play on it?" "Yeah, sure." So I just picked up a bass and tracked bass on 2 songs, and I didn't even know what came of that until the album came out. So yeah, I had no clue.
I got to tell you, for like a very technically driven band, that has to be the most organic way I've ever seen somebody featured on a record. Yeah. Now, I know you weren't featured through the entirety of Ministry, but I kind of wanted your perspective on this because if you look at Ministry's discography from With Sympathy, Land of Rape and Honey, Mine is a Terrible Thing to Taste, to now, it seems that Ministry their sound has always changed over the years. Do you think, is it fair to say that Ministry is a very experimental band?
Yeah, I think the sound has definitely changed and evolved over the years. And I think part of that is just the different personnel that Al has had in the band over the years has I think that's had an influence on where the sound went. But Al's always been the overarching theme of everything. So even though it may be different, like not exactly sonically, but like style-wise, like the Bush records were kind of more thrashy, and like this record is more kind of more old school.
I would say so.
Yeah, and so even though things have changed, it's still Ministry because of Al's overarching influence on everything,
Yeah. Now, for you, with everything that you've been on with the 20 projects I named in the beginning, but like, is it fair to say, are you in a different mind frame depending on what project you're playing with, or in the end you're just playing your instrument and there's really there's kind of just like a blanket methodology?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's once I'm there, out on the road, I'm doing the gig. It's pretty much the same, like being on stage and performing the songs. Just some projects are a little more technical than others playing wise. So that's a difference. But what makes it different for me every gig is just the preparation for the gig, the stuff, the homework I gotta do at home. That's what makes it. Some stuff is easier to get down and learn. And when I was doing those gigs with Possessed, that stuff was a lot more technical. So that took me a little longer to prepare for, and then just the rehearsal situation with those guys, completely different from the like rehearsing with Ministry, or having no rehearsals with Soulfly. You know? So yeah, it's all. I think the preparation part is the big difference for me.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Now, just over the past couple of years, you played on what I thought were the two of some of the most legendary '90s albums in its entirety: Demanufacture with Fear Factory and Roots by Sepultura and Cavalier Conspiracy. When you're playing with like another band, especially with those albums, are you just learning the songs and just playing according to that, or does Burton and Dino or Max and Igor maybe like wanted you to kind of bring in a little bit of your own mix to the live presence?
With the Demanufactured tour, that was, strictly play it like, it is on the record. They wanted to recreate that as closely as possible. With the Roots thing, well, just with Max in general, he's so punk rock, man. He's like, just do whatever, man. I don't care.
He's so laid back.
Yeah, totally laid back.
Yeah. Now, most importantly, you just announced Project Regeneration with Static X, which I think is awesome. Aside from the 20 years of Wisconsin Death Trip, like, was there another like specific reason why you chose now to release like the unreleased Static X songs?
Well, I mean, it just felt like the right time to do it. I mean, I've had previously reconnected with our original drummer Ken J, and I never really lost touch with Koichi. So, we've been in contact for the last 5 years, whatever. And we just, through our conversations, we felt like, it'd be really cool to one day jam again, and, with the anniversary coming up, and, it felt right. It felt right to do it,
Yeah, definitely. I noticed that you mentioned that you wanted to get some noticeable guests such as Al Jurgensen. I think you mentioned David from Disturbed and Burton from Fear Factory. Like, are you gonna like have to maybe like adjust those songs to fit their vocal style, or are you gonna leave it the way it is?
No, I don't think so. I think I think these guys are talented enough they can come in and do what they do on top of the existing material. I mean, if something happens and they come up with something even better, and it's like, ooh, okay, well, let's adjust things to better fit their delivery and vocal approach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think this is a really good way to honor, because not only did we lose Wayne, but we also lost Tara Ray, his wife, and I think this is like the best way to remember them by.
Yeah, totally. And throughout this whole process, I've been in close contact with Wayne's family, and been running everything by them first before that trailer came out. I sent it to them, and got their approval, their blessing to do this, and so first and foremost, I want to make sure we do right by Wayne's family.
That's great. Huge shout out to Wayne. And what I was curious about is musically, is this kind of like a direct follow up? I believe the last record was Cult of Static, right? That was the final Static X record. Is this going to be like a follow up? Because I loved Start a War, I love Wisconsin Death Trip, and all that. Is it musically? Can people be expecting what they were hearing on previous Static X records?
Musically, there's the songs that we developed from Wayne's last demos. Sonically, I think those are coming out more like Wisconsin Death Trip era.
Wow.
And then there's songs that were from unreleased tracks from the Start a War sessions. And so those are going to still have that vibe. We went in and changed the majority of the music and kept Wayne's vocal performances. So, the music beds will be a little more Wisconsin-y, but Wayne had had a different vocal delivery for that Start a War record. He sang a lot more.
Yeah.
As opposed to just the hard, screamy vocals. So I think it's gonna be cool. Having like Wayne actually singing over, a more old school static kind of sound.
Yeah, kind of like a Skinny Man meets like Wisconsin Death Trap, kind of like Skinny Man meets a Death of It or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I'll never forget hearing Skinny Man on Need for Speed. That's how I discovered Static X.
Cool.
And I just have 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of debate actually over like what industrial is. Because like a lot of people say a band like Static X or Fear Factory or even later Ministry, they say it's more industrial metal, not like industrial like Skinny Puppy or Nine Inch Nails. I mean, do you think there's a real difference between industrial and industrial metal?
Yeah, well, obviously the metal part of that equation is just the heavy guitars and that's what makes it metal. And like traditional industrial doesn't seem to have a whole lot of those heavy ass guitars, even though like the music itself can be really heavy, like the song "Land of Rape and Honey." There's no guitars on that, but that synth bass line is fucking heavy as shit.
You could crowd kill to that song.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So so it doesn't necessarily, the guitars don't necessarily make it heavy, but I guess for the purists, it's like that makes it industrial metal, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I never understood how like a Skinny Puppy or a KMFDM fan can't appreciate a Static X song or a Fear Factory song.
Yeah, well, everybody has their own taste, I guess.
Yeah. And the final question I'd like to ask is I would love to do a bit of gear talk with you if that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, what's your weapon of choice?
I have been playing Zon Legacy 5-string basses for 5 years now, I think.
Wow.
And night and day, better than anything I've ever played. Like these things are so easy to play; they practically play themselves.
Really?
Yeah. Like I never knew it could be that good. So yeah, I've been really happy with the Zons.
Is that mainly like? Did you pick that bass as mainly to go along with the style that you've always played, or is it just something you picked up?
Well, the way that happened was because I was a Fernandez player for a long time, and long story short, they shut down their North America division, and so I was out a bass company, and in the meantime, Lauren Hill over at Zon had reached out to me and asked me if I would want to try out one of their basses. And I was like, well, yeah, sure, and I actually went down to the shop out there in Northern California, and they let me pick everything, and they made it to my specs, and yeah, and played like a dream. I was like, oh my God, this is like incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, instantly fell in love. Yeah.
That's awesome. And any specific amps or pedals that you use?
Depending on the gig, I use an amp. Like with Ministry, I use an Ampeg SVT7 Pro with a 6x10, and then when I was playing with Fear Factory, we weren't using any cabinets on stage. We were just going direct front of house.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Dino uses a Kemper, and for all my gigs, I have a pedal board. I'll configure it for differently for different gig. But for the Ministry gig, I'm using a Dark Glass B7K for my distortion tone, and a Sansamp VT bass for my clean tone.
Wow.
So for like the old stuff, that has the rounder, clean tone, I'll switch to the VT bass.
Yeah, I'd imagine with like a more industrial gig like Ministry, you need like a heavier, louder sounding bass cab, right?
Well, with Fear Factory, I was just using the B7K, going to that to front of house.
Wow.
And the sound isn't like, basically I just turned up the distortion a little more for Fear Factory.
It's funny. I was at both of the Gramercy Theater shows. And I go to that venue pretty much on a weekly basis, and yet I've never heard it sound like that. Like, I don't know the best. It sounded so awesome, but it was like no matter where you go, nobody was safe at that venue. So
cool.
Props to you, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's got a lot to do with the sound guy Wedge, who's also mixing Ministry. So
awesome.
Yeah, so it'll sound good tonight too.
That's like a demanufacture in its entirety to a reunion, because Burton is also playing tonight, right?
No. Burton's not out on the tour.
Oh, really?
No, he's not out on the tour. He just got married, so he's on his honeymoon, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, you should totally play at his honeymoon. You should have played at his wedding, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, he did it. He did it somewhere warm.
Yeah, I saw Goat Whore play at a wedding, so I could see anybody play at a wedding.
Hey, I'd be down to play a wedding.
Yeah. So before we go, Tony, I want to thank you so much for your time. Just, is there anything else you would like to promote with Fear Factory or with Project Regeneration from Static X, or anything else?
Yeah, just we'll be making more announcements about what's going on with Project Regeneration soon, and we're working on. We're going to finish up the record first and foremost. We're going to finish up the record, and then we'll take this out on the road and give people a cool show and a cool way to remember the good times we all had together. With Wayne and Ken and Koichi.
Yeah.
So,
I never saw Static X before, so please bring that to New York.
Yeah, well, we certainly will.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you so much. Everybody, Tony of Ministry, Static X, Fear Factory, and so on and so forth. Just check the Wikipedia page if you want to know what else he's a part of. Project Regeneration coming in 2019. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York, everybody.